We're here at an amazing AWS Energy Sympoium 2024. I'm Jordan Bloom, Editorial Director with Hart Energy. I'm joined by Jason Sidhu, Director of IS Business Engagement for TC Energy, and with Derrick Bowen, Principal Consultant for Energy and Utilities with Pariveda. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. We'll be discussing generative AI for information management and much more. Just to get things started, if you don't mind, Jason, I'll start with you, just to talk a little bit about the company and what you're focused on, and then Derrick, your turn.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Jordan. Appreciate it. And thanks for having us. So TC Energy, we are energy problem solvers. So really what that means is that we're in the business of providing energy across North America. So we have 90% of our business or more is really focused on natural gas transmission. And then we're also focused on power and energy solutions as well when it comes to investing in power and utilization there as well. So over to you.
Yeah, and Pariveda is a general technology and management consulting company. We do work for clients in thinking through ideas, building out the implementation, org and ops work, really from concept to implementation. We try to be full service. We're also a certified B Corp, so we're in the business of using business for good. And I specialize in energy, both traditional energy, and I'm also leading our new energy and energy transition practice within Pariveda.
Very good. Well, if I can get you to just start out too by telling the story a little bit about the particular challenge we were focused on in terms of info management and just kind of how you came to partner with Pariveda and AWS as well.
Yeah, 100%. So I think from an IS perspective, I think we've traditionally been in the business of kind of working on more traditional or foundational systems to support our business. And with our move to the cloud in AWS beginning in 2018, we really wanted to focus more on kind of how can IS and technology be a value contributor to the organization. As such, we started to look at our data and look at potential use cases and opportunities in terms of utilizing our data to drive decisions and drive those informative, analytics-based decisions. And we looked at providers to support with that creativity and leaning into the innovation side of things. And I think we had an innovation day where AWS actually came up with partners, to present and give a quick kind of introduction on who we are. That's how we came to know Pariveda. Pariveda actually also supported with our enterprise data strategy in terms of kind of where we should be heading, for years out in terms of informing that decision quality, as well as centralizing and aggregating our data, now that it's in the cloud with AWS, using those AWS services to make those informed decisions for us as well. So that led to us engaging with Pariveda. And I think along the way we had many learnings, but there was also an investment that's required in terms of ensuring that your data is of quality, and pointing out those use cases along the way to ensure that we're making those business cases, adding that value in terms of moving forward and getting the approval as well. So love to hear your take on things as well.
Yeah, no, it's been quite a journey. That was, I think, 3 years ago now that we did that innovation day and the data strategy work, and moved from there to the operations data lake. And it's just been a wild ride. You guys are a fantastic customer to partner with, and we've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, awesome.
Just curious, how has it been working with kind of the midstream and utility customers as opposed to other industries you might partner with?
TC Energy is great because they've got a focus on the right things: safety, people, and doing innovative things while staying true to their purpose of getting the energy where it needs to go. So I think we've also had a great partnership between AWS, Pariveda, and TC Energy the whole time. All of our teams work integrated. We have with the AWS solution architects, we talk to them regularly. They join our status meetings. We really try to keep everyone involved. Our team building the data lake, from the beginning, we wanted not just our developers, but also the TC Energy developers were integrated as part of the same team. And that's made a huge difference because we're able to build this whole foundation, bring our knowledge and our expertise about how we've seen this at other places, and then TC Energy is able to run with it and own it, and didn't need us to stick around to make sure it stayed successful after the end of the project.
Yeah, just building on that as well, Derrick. I think what was important for us is to ensure that we have a partner that feels like an extension of our team. And that meant that at our steering committee meetings, we actually had representation from Pariveda, at those meetings as well. It felt like one team. I think even to have y'all as part of the consulting in terms of the planning portion of the project. So not only like just, hey, we've got this great idea, now execute on it, but it was also more so like, here's what we believe, when it comes to TC, Pariveda, to AWS to an extent as well. Like, here's what we feel is achievable, and here's the technology that underpins that. And then moving forward and just really that extension of that TC internal team. Yeah. And I think you guys actually, became so knowledgeable in the way that TC operates, what matters to us in terms of goals, objectives, our scorecard, relationships, I think is so important as well, just in terms of, maintaining that structure and ensuring that we're actually meeting and at times exceeding those deliverables as well. So.
Yeah. The thing TC has done really well that I think other energy companies could learn a lot from is the focus on business value. We established something called a value realization office. From the beginning of the data strategy, we had 11 use cases in the operations space, and each had a specific value tied to it that was either cost reduction or productivity improvement or strategic values or other things. And the managers and directors had signed off on, if we complete this use case, this is the business value to TC that we expect to see annually. And through our whole project, we looked at, okay, how could we know that value, we came up with formulas for how that was calculated, and that was tied into us the whole way. So we said, okay, we're gonna do this data product and we'll calculate the value this way. And so as we implemented it, we can check, okay, did we actually achieve the value? Did we not? For example, one of our big ones that we have a public reference on is the capital project bundling. So we said, okay, there's all these projects. TC does a lot of work to make sure the pipeline is reliable and secure, has high integrity. That means they have a lot of teams all focusing that at once. So sometimes those teams may be planning to do the same work or similar work on an area of the pipeline. So our data product was to look at all the projects for those teams and see where there might be overlapping effort and where those teams should work together. And that leads to cost savings for TC Energy while delivering the same high level of integrity for consumers. And we were able to say, okay, by bundling these together, we have saved X money because we had to only do one construction team out there to do a dig rather than sending two.
Very good. And AWS essentially played matchmaker in the cloud.
That's right. And AWS was there with recommendations as we came up with this. Our data lake architecture came from some great people in ProServes, and the solution architect had worked initially on some of the data lake architecture pieces, worked with the TC Energy data teams and helping set that up and make sure that they're in a really good place. And then whenever we were trying to do things, so we had some use cases that included geospatial data, and we were able to go to the AWS and they're able to point to different SMEs or people that could help us with, okay, here's the recommended way to make that happen.
Very good. Jason, from your standpoint, I'm curious if you can talk about just kind of the initial project goals going into this and how, if at all, they've evolved since then.
Yeah, no, great question. I think the initial goals, as Derrick pointed out, I think we started off knowing that it would be difficult to get the funding required for a project that's just based on data centralization and foundation. So you can imagine, as a business owner, we're going to our senior leadership saying, hey, we feel it's a good thing to centralize our data, and then we'll figure out what happens after that. That wasn't going to fly. And so the way that we led was actually with the value of those 11 use cases, and we had a timeline that was multi-year as well. So I think it was important for us to spend, I think it was 4 to 6 months doing that planning early on to ensure that we engaged across the operations and even broader than operations with our business stakeholders to ensure that we had that buy-in. And then when we made that presentation to our senior leadership to get the endorsement on funding, it was very different than we've done in the past. It was more saying, here's your roadmap, that stretches out 2 to 3 years, and here's what we expect to see as value checkpoints along the way. And so I felt very comfortable, in setting those expectations. I don't think anybody, felt like we were stretching ourselves when it came to kind of where we were going. And I think one of the things I reflect on is our first value realization checkpoint, when we'd actually started to see the value coming in and the cost savings around, the project bundling. That was a huge breakthrough. And what that created to me, I always call it credits in the bank. That just created those credits with our senior leadership. It's like, yeah, keep going. And I think that's one of the challenges that we run into with a lot of IS projects, specifically data projects, is getting the funding that we need, knowing that it's foundational work. And so what we found is a great balance of knowing that we had a ton of foundational centralization, aggregation work to do, but at the same time holding ourselves accountable to the value that we committed to. So,
which led to the Gen AI work that we did most recently that we want to talk about. So because we had that foundation of value and the foundation of the use cases in the data lake, we worked together, partnered to identify, okay, the Gen AI is a new technology. Where could it be applied in this set of data we already have that could really bring value back to the organization? And we had identified 2 areas. One is in ILI tech memos. So these are TC Energy and all pipeline companies do these inline inspections. It essentially sends a drone down the pipe and collects tons of data, massive amounts of data. And they do 100, 120 of these every year. Then that data comes out and an engineer typically would review all of that data, create a summary document or a memo so that other people can understand what are the important takeaways, et cetera, and then publishes that out so everyone knows, okay, what are the actions or what are things we need to do based on the data that was pulled in. We were able to use Gen AI to take that data and create those memos or the summary sections of those memos, which saved, one, it saved all that engineer time so they could focus on value add activities rather than just summarization activities. And 2, it sped up the time where before it would take 3-4 weeks, a month maybe, before an engineer got to it, that we can make those memos available immediately so that the other parties, compliance, the integrity planning teams, have that right away. And so there's both the savings of the time, and that was calculated about $500,000 a year that we could save there, and then also the benefit to everybody else on being able to use that much more quickly, and was fantastic. And some interesting things we did there, we started with a very simple case. We used AWS Bedrock, and we already had the data platform with Glue and Lambda pushing things through. And so one of the things that's unique about what we did here was tying Gen AI into the data pipeline and having it call it directly rather than having a chat interface or some sort of content creation. And so we're able to get Lambda through using step functions and some other piece of AWS technology to call Bedrock with the data that we had in the data lake, create those summarizations, save those in S3, and then publish them up through the visualization layer so that users could, within any of the rest of the reporting solutions, see that information. And we were able to do this all with just prompt engineering. We didn't have to create RAG models or any custom train, so the cost of doing this is very low. Each of those summaries only needs to be generated once, and so it's a huge amount of savings, huge amount of optimization of what we're able to do.
Yeah, I think just building on the investment is a key thing, right? So it's a multi-year journey to get your data into a spot where you're able to leverage Gen AI to kind of receive or to take advantage of those outcomes from a cost to value and speed to value perspective. And so that's kind of what we're looking forward to next, Jordan. It's just in terms of kind of what those use cases are. We've run a couple great POCs or proof of concepts, and we're looking forward to putting those in operation and seeing what comes next as well.
Great. I know you've touched on it maybe a little bit already, but just curious, what's maybe surprised you or excited you the most on this journey so far?
Yeah, great question. I think from my perspective, it's the level of engagement that we've had across our business has been great, right? Like we've had many kind of start and stops in other areas or just other companies I've worked for in terms of, I think, overcommitting sometimes when it comes to either the value or the speed to value or the schedule. And I love the engagement on this. This truly does feel business led from my perspective. Being part of TC Energy on the IS side, it's rare to have a project that is led by the business in this way. We actually presented at the AWS Sympoium last year, and we had one of our operations director actually present and talk to what the use case was, what the value was, and a bit on the architecture as well. And so for me, it's just a testament to the partnership that we have from a technology perspective. But I think it's just so cool to see the business at the forefront of speaking to the outcome, speaking to why this needs to continue, and speaking a bit to how they can be more hands-on when it comes to a bit of the, whether it be data engineering, whether it be data science. I think we're leading into kind of that democratization and of data, which is one of our goals from an IS perspective. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that's right. Each of those use cases and these Gen AI use cases, we had business sponsors who are there with us in our weekly meetings, evangelizing, oh, we really need this. This is going to change the way we do our business. This will bring so much value. And having them there, and part of that was just a game changer for sure.
Great. Well, now, lastly, just wanted to see if there's anything else you really want to highlight about your company or about the evolution of the technology.
I think it's early days, but it's great to be here and finding what works. What our main lesson that I think other people can learn from is that to start small and simple. We did a couple of these other Gen AI POCs, and we were thinking we need to do RAG or something or custom train, but we said, all right, let's start with just prompt engineering and see what we can do. And we didn't need to do anything fancy or complicated to get the value out of this. Partly because we've done all the upfront work to get the data in good shape, but the capabilities of Gen AI are pretty amazing.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think it's important that this technology, it doesn't need to be a black box that's held to whether it be systems implementers or IS. This is something that the business is more and more savvy towards, and I think it's a game changer in terms of reimagining what we had thought a traditional solution would be, and kind of what that leads to. I think there's more of that to come. I know it's still relatively early days in terms of seeing these solutions in production, but really excited about kind of how we can reimagine that speed to value and cost to value for those outcomes that we're striving for our business partners.
Great. Well, no, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at the AWS Energy Symposium 2024. Have a great rest of the day.